as Small Business Saturday. Now therefore, I, David Romero, Mayor of the City of Las Vegas, New Mexico, along with members of the governing body, do hereby proclaim November 30th, 2024 as Small Business Saturday and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday, celebrating its 15th year in 2024, and shop small throughout the year.
Thank you, Ms. Cassandra. I just can't stress enough, as we go through, all the devastation that we have the past couple years, the one thing that has taken a toll on our community is small businesses. So this year specifically, I think it's important that if possible that we shop local and keep that money local. So I just want to make that comment. As far as other reports, I guess Mr. Lucas Marquez, you and I are up. We'll be presenting on, I know, Mr. Marquez, thank you for putting together a slideshow. And
Yes, sir, Mayor and Council, Mr. Pro Tem.
And I'll jump in as we kind of.
Mayor, Council, good evening. I want to just recognize first off that we were sent over to New Orleans for the Pass Forward Conference. They dubbed it as NOLA, which of course is New Orleans, Louisiana. Just to give a quick overview of the program, there was over 1,100 attendees with lots of energy. There was lots of energy in every conference, every class that was there. There was really a lot of energy, a lot of good speeches that went on. There was a great amount of networking that went on over there at those workshops. It made the indoor sessions go by way too fast. But ultimately, we gained a lot of valuable knowledge in the sense that there's a lot of grants that are out there that we're not looking for over here that we can chase after. A lot of the hits that they were hitting on were power of heritage. They were really specific on how historic buildings or places can serve as powerful symbols of community, and I kind of felt that we have those over here in our community as well. Plaza Park being one, the Plaza Hotel, Bridge Street. These areas have a lot of significance in our community, and they also have a lot of economic impact. They could contribute to economic development through our tourism and our local business growth. They talked about the domino effect. Once we get one building restructured, it seems like everything comes into play. The importance of collaboration was spoken about a lot over there as well. They spoke about having the public get involved with these collaborations and restructuring and keeping these buildings up and running. We did have one that just went down, and there was no lack of public input on that building, as well as government chances to try to get that building saved. Unfortunately, the Mother Nature had its way and took it from us. But community involvement, it also brings preservation in on them as a sense of ownership for the building that we're trying to preserve. If you look at the Castaneda, there was a lot of public input, and now you see the buildings around it trying to keep up with the beautification of those buildings. Adaptive reuse, they talked about adapting the historic buildings for contemporary use, like neighborhood and reduced urban sprawl. They talked about striking a balance between preserving historic characters and meeting modern building codes and accessibility. And this was one of them that I didn't go into because it was really in length, but they talked about geothermal setups for these buildings, because a lot of these buildings have this old structure where it'd be very expensive to put these new types of heating and stuff in there. And these geothermal things were really great for keeping the foundation from rotting and keeping the business or the building nice and secure, and as far as keeping it winterized, you could call it, whatever.
A big portion of that was, I know we see here in our community a lot of development on historic buildings, but what they're doing in other places, and there's grants available, is they're making them energy efficient to where basically, as Lucas mentioned, the geothermal, they're going in there and they're finding every nick and cranny and sealing it to where, to make it more energy efficient. The different materials that they're using was interesting. And I just thought that was, to me, through this whole conference, we have so many buildings within our community, but the one that stood out to me was Old City Hall. Like the opportunity that that building, I mean, then because we own that building, I guess, and that's, what brought a lot of attention to me and different ways on preserving that building. I won't go into too much as we go through the slideshow, then I'll kind of.
Sure,
But
sure.
just, one of the things that caught my eye too was energy, making these buildings energy efficient.
Yes, and that's the next page that came up with sustainable preservation. And that's the mayor was speaking about environmental friendly practices, employing sustainable building practices and materials to minimize the environmental impact of preservation projects. So there's different type of mortars and stuff that we can use that they didn't have back then, that we can use that'll still look authentic and keep its historical value, but it'll be a lot more, I guess, impervious to the weather. They looked at that. They looked at energy efficiency. They really spoke on that, incorporating energy efficient technologies into historic buildings to reduce operating costs and carbon emissions. They spoke really a lot about carbon emissions in this conference. Educational outreach, of course, we're always trying to raise public awareness about the importance of historic preservation through education and advocacy. And, we learned a lot from some people over there, and some of the networking groups that me and the mayor had. We spoke to people as far as Chicago that were there looking for grants, and they fought over and over and over to get these grants. And they finally had to dig deeper into the history of the building that they were trying to get these grants for, because they kept getting denied, and wound up finding aspect or a part of history that actually really gave them the chance to get the footing, and they were all ultimately granted their grant. So we have to do that to inspire the future generations, to engage young people in preservation efforts to ensure the continuity of our heritage and our conservation. Some of these buildings were just the way they presented themselves to me, like Buffalo Hall, where they had that old feeling, old look. As a matter of fact, there was a place called the Warehouse District that me and the mayor had to meet down there with some of the class, and these buildings are actually old warehouses that were turned into really high-end restaurants and businesses, and they were full of life. And they talked again about the domino effect, as once they did one building, the rest of the buildings followed suit. And this wasn't just cheap little rebuild. This was an actual district that took on a really high-end look. One of the places that we had to meet on our first day. One of the places that we did have to meet on our first day, at the end of the day, was a walking tour at the St. Louis Cathedral. Just want to read a little bit about it. The St. Louis Cathedral is a prominent landmark in the heart of the French Quarters in New Orleans. It has a rich history intertwined with the city's development. It recently did receive funding, and me and actually the mayor were actually there when it received its funding that day. It received funding for upkeep and renovations from a lady by the name of Gail Benson. She is a philanthropist. I practiced that word a lot, like chief. And the owner of the New Orleans Saints and the New Orleans Pelicans, a basketball team and a pro football team. So very nice lady. She met her husband in this church, and a big kudos to her to keep that church going. Just a couple more pictures to show you of the inside of this church. I guess sometimes you got to go to other states to wind up in church, and that's where me and the mayor wound up. We were in church on our conference, and we had a little bit of a church setting in there. It was a very beautiful place, but you could see where they put the work and the effort into it, and it was really, really great to see that. This was just a few pictures, like I said. This is the corridor. On the left-hand side is the corridor of how our walking tours were on these class dates. You'd have to walk down this corridor to the French Quarters, where they went ahead and walked us through some of these buildings to show us the intense rebuilds that they did on some of these buildings. Some of these buildings, that the pictures that they showed us were really, really about to crumble and fall. And they showed us how a little bit of ingenuity with each other and the collaboration with the public, how they can really make these buildings come into life and make them vibrant and successful. This one with all the scaffolding on the left-hand side was one that they were actually working on. It's their United Fruit Company building. You could see the ornamental rock and stuff that's on there. Really, really nice ornate features. They were really working on it, so they didn't let us get in there, so really too dangerous for us to be there. But we were able to look at this building and stay in awe with this building. After that meeting that we had at the St. Louis Cathedral, we were allowed or taken into a museum to show us this stuff. And this concept has followed me my whole career, so I had to take a picture of it, and I wanted to show it to Mayor and Council Pro Tem about the Festival of Trash is what it is. And you could see the little bulldozer there pushing a lot of trash. New Orleans, as pretty as it is, does have its sore spots, and these pictures coming up will show you what we're talking about. So we did have the Festival of Trash that I wanted to take a picture of, and then as you're walking through the French Quarters, I wanted to show this to show everybody that the city of Las Vegas isn't the only one that deals with this type of situation. It's all over the world. It's all over our nation. Certain streets had trash cans that were more than overflowed. The smells were a little bit rough in certain areas, and it's something that every community has to deal with. And when you look at what we saw in these aspects, city of Las Vegas is a pretty clean place. So we do have our sore spots that we have to deal with over here, but nothing to the extent of what we saw on these areas. I just took a couple of pictures because I didn't want to bring negativity into the report. I just wanted to reflect real life. At the end of our last day.
Let me kind of tack on before we get to this part. I just want to tack on, those many seminars was from, I believe, 8 to 4 o'clock, except for the last day. I think we got out at 2, the last day of the conference. But to me, it opened up my eyes as to the opportunity that I know we our aim to fame is our historic buildings, right? But I think as a community, we haven't capitalized on opportunities. I know we've applied at the city for some historical grants, and that's why, this was part of the grant that, that we sent some individuals there. But there's other grants through the National Historic Preservation where, and this one caught my eye, and this is where Lucas mentioned, some individuals in Chicago, is there's oral grants that are available. I mean, there's so many, and I have a list here. The new market tax credit, historic tax credit, lead certified geothermal credits, even with FEMA, but the oral grants is the one that I know we have so much history, and City Hall is one of them, and again, I guess because that's what we're working on as a community. But every single building that has a little bit of history, there's opportunity for oral grants that basically you turn this place into a museum, and it gets basically funded as a museum, and you're able to teach the history of that specific building. And that kind of we have so many old homes, the first mansion or the governor's mansion of the state of New Mexico, I think Mr. Arianes owns that there's a lot of opportunity that I don't think that we've capitalized. And also tax credits that incentivize, and I know like Mr. Alan Elfeld, I think Almo, those guys have, they've tried, but to me, it opened up my eyes as we in a city need to support more of that, more thoroughly to make sure that these buildings don't fall down. I mean, we had the one now during the last rainstorms, collapse, and there's so much history and so much opportunity, and it's a lot of work to apply for these grants, but there's a lot of opportunity and benefits that we could capitalize on, and I think there was sessions that I attended, and there was more pertaining to like the nonprofit side of it, where that's where some of the sessions were. So that one, of course, there's bank loans and stuff like that, but there's so much more that we as a historic community can capitalize on, and that's what I got from that. I don't know.
There's plenty. There's a lot out there that we need to get out of that tunnel vision and start looking around what we can see to help us sustain.
We reached out. Mike was his name. He was sitting at one of the discussion tables that we were talking at. He works with UNM, and he does their historic preservation GIS system. And basically, what the state, he's contracted through the state of New Mexico. And what they do is they GIS every single historic home, And we kind of started, we went through it, you know, some of them, and there's a lot of our homes and that aren't GIS within that. So I know Lucas got his contact information. I think that was the, you know, as you go to these conferences, you want a to-do list, right? And I think that's one of Lucas's that he had, is get in contact with them to make sure that the historic buildings that we do have are placed within that, because once they're within the system, and they're mapping out, you know, GIS, you know, that's the newer mapping systems, you know, it's a lot easier when they're registered and they're on the GIS system for part of the application and funding process. So that's, you know, the you know,
Yep, and-
in the time that we're allotted here, you know, if there's any questions, I could answer them.
And definitely, like, again, New Orleans is an example of what historic buildings can bring to an economy. There was, that place was full, and there was a lot of pride in it. So it brought a lot of good feelings to us over there to see what they were doing with those old buildings. So, I mean, we have the potential for that. There was a class that me and the mayor were in, and when we mentioned that we had over 900 historical structures on the historical data list over here, there was a lot of wide-eyed open people saying, wow, they couldn't believe how many historic buildings are in our little town.
So somewhere, you know, whoever put these buildings in the eighties or what, seventies, whenever they did it, that's one thing, because some communities were having trouble getting, and they're getting denied, and I know you know, we went through the National Registry in one of the classes, and I'll just throw this out because I thought it was funny, right? You know, we have an animal overpopulation in our community, and I jokingly, you know, I went and looked into it, and it's funny when the Plaza Park was put into the registry, and the actual comments by one person that whoever submitted this application, one of the comments talked about the Plaza Park and all the dogs that were, and this was, again, in the 1800s, you know, that there was what was the word?
Four-footed domesticated animals roaming around.
Roaming the city,
roaming
and
the
I was
city.
like, see, this problem's been ongoing that we're trying to fix, and it's been going on since
been going for a long
inception
time,
of the Plaza Park. I mean jokingly, but that's the type of history that somewhere down the line, kudos to whoever put all those buildings in the registry. But now there's still work to be done, the GIS portion of it, and I think that's, you know, the to-do list and tasks, and working with organizations on how to get as much funding to.
The city does have a leg up with the Chris Wilson studies, and we're real lucky that Chris Wilson did put those studies together.
together, and they're still available to us at the city and also at the Carnegie Library, where you can see all these historical structures and their significance, if they're pivotal buildings, if they're just tag-alongs and stuff like that. So we're really lucky in that aspect.
So,
You want me to move forward?
go ahead.
Okay,
And,
okay, so after our classes were done, it was, I went up to the room, and I thought the day was over. It was over at about 2:30, around there, and mayor called me and said, can you meet me downstairs? We're gonna go check out something. So the mayor, continuing his job, trying to look forward and find us the solutions to our big problem over here. We wound up at a water treatment facility and down in New Orleans, so we could look at the way they deal with their waters. And they dealt with a situation that's pretty tough. First off, they dealt with Hurricane Katrina, and they deal with hurricanes annually. And the water that they're bringing in there is really brackish. Matter of fact, they were telling us that if you would fall into the river where they were drawing their water from 2 feet under, and you wouldn't be seen. So it's really, really murky, it's really dark. Mayor was talking to some of these ones here. We have a couple of employees from New Orleans. I believe it was Patterson, New Orleans.
Morgan City.
And, yeah, and Morgan,
So-
was it Morgan City?
So the way this happened is, Jamie and Deb found out that we were in New Orleans, so they said, well, if you guys are there, it's not gonna cost you anything. So I said, well, we'll take I think it was about a half-hour drive.
Yeah.
So we took a half-hour drive to look at this, the water treatment plant, just to see, right? I mean, that's an issue that we have to address, and I wanted to see, you know, what they were dealing with. And it's just amazing I mean, I know we call it turbid water, but it was like chocolate milk water. I mean, I thought the water during our storm was bad. This was terrible. And I know you didn't get the picture because I didn't know you were going to throw that on. But there was one system in a plant, in a facility that was, the building was probably what, 100 by 100?
Yeah, around there,
You
yeah.
know, and it was an all-in-one system, and to me, that was kind of interesting, and the water that they were dealing with, to me, I mean, I know turbidity, you know, you have to do the numbers, but that water was a lot more chocolatey than what I had seen. And, I mean, of course, you know, I mean, you want to see what's out there. And I know, you know, Deb and Jamie had been mentioning this, so I said, well, we're here, it's not gonna cost the city anything, so we just took that little field trip and went to check it
It
out.
was really, really good, like, to see
The way the system functions over there. And they had these little spigots that were actually ran into their lab, and it'd show you as the water was coming from the river to see how dark it was, and it was really dark. And then it'd show you the first stage all the way to the fourth stage where it came out crystal clear.
Everything was on the
and
SCADA
actual
system, I mean,
drinkable. And
everything was digital, and that's,
the SCADA system was able to tell you how much their storage tank had that was, I think, a mile away. Would tell you if they had, you know, 900 gallons or 9,000 gallons, whatever they had in storage. So everything was like in front of you. Like when you guys were calling and trying to get numbers, when you were speaking to the state, they didn't have to go and get calculations by a manpower. It was actually the computer telling you exactly what you guys had in front of you and how much you had in storage. And if one was going down, it would automatically warn you and it would turn itself on. And with those systems, it's very little manpower. There was one level 4 that they had in there and 2 water treatment operators that were there. So it was 3 people working for 9,000 people. And they were just adding another one to add another 14,000 people. So it was a very comparable facility to our community. So the mayor did, this is in Morgan City, this one right here. This treatment facility this one was outside, it's older, but they are building the same type of facility that we were at. Mayor again was talking here with these gentlemen, trying to get some ideas from them. These last pictures are just some visitors that came up to us while we were eating on the dock there, and I just wanted to make sure I threw those in there to give a little bit of a high note on the end of the presentation. But again, very grateful for the information, very grateful for the education. There was one saying that stuck in my head when they were having these speeches, and I just bring it back to us over here in our community, and that saying was, when evil men plot, good people plan. And you know, I see a lot of that coming from our mayor and our council and our city manager, because you guys have dealt with a lot, and the stress levels are really high, but you guys always come out together as a team, and that's really respectable from all of us in the community. We should be respecting you guys in that sense. So thank you guys for keeping us going the way you guys have, and appreciate it. But that's the presentation, sir.
thank you. So I don't know, councilors, you have any questions? If not, I hope that was suffice enough for you, Councilor Casey.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right.
Cool.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, moving on to our councilors' reports.
Councilors?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Casey?
I want to thank our wonderful staff that we have with the city. They are so helpful. I had a situation with a constituent that is suffering from dementia and had an issue, and I contacted Lucas Marcus, and he was so kind and took care of the situation very professionally. And the daughter of this person called me up and said that she was just amazed at how wonderful Mr. Marcus had been, that he was very patient, he listened, he explained things, and gave her some ideas as to how to approach a certain situation that had come up with her elderly mother. So I want to thank him specifically for that. I also want to thank our police chief, Caleb Marcus. He has been really very helpful with situations in the bad weather and even beyond. And he continues to ensure that the people in our community are safe and that they get assistance that they need. And I appreciate that also very much. I did have one constituent that did contact me with a long email about the water situation at Story Lake, and also about Peterson Dam, and if it's compromised or what might be happening with that. This was not the only person that had contacted me. Others contacted me through Messenger on Facebook and had a lot of the same concerns. a lot of people live on the east side of Highway 518, and their properties are already flooding, and they're very, very concerned about the situation. So I thought maybe when we get to item number 6, the ACOM contract for Peterson replacement, maybe we can get a little bit of an update there as to what's happening and where do we go from here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And Councilor Casey, city manager and I were going to meet with the president of that, of the Story Lake Waters.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he canceled, so we weren't able to get an update to kind of find out what's going on there. Just,
Okay.
okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilors?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Martinez?
Yes, I only had one concern of a constituent that came up to me and asked, I guess he's been having some trouble with some drainage issues off of Kavanaugh Street. I need to bring it up to city manager, and I guess this is as good as any time, but I'm not sure exactly what those drainage issues are, but I guess we need to possibly take a look at them. That was the only concern I had at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on to our next item is our police chief's report. We have our police chief, Mr. Caleb Marcus.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Mr. Manager. This is going to be the police chief's report for,
Chief, if you don't mind talking into the,
this will be the police chief report for the month of October. Starting off with our field operations division, we had a total of 154 traffic citations, 8 non-traffic, 19 parking citations, 37 arrests were made, 3 animal control citations were issued. We had 4 burglary calls, 2 incident reports for burglaries, and we had 1,298 calls for service. Here on this picture, the city teamed up with Highlands and hosted a first responders recognition community event. I just want to say thank you for that. It was a really good event. It was good to get all the public safety together from around the area and kind of, showcase a good, positive event for public safety. For the month of October, we had 1,298 calls into our dispatch division for police department, 195 for the fire department, 180 for AMR, 99 calls for animal control, 37 calls for our on-call for gas, water, wastewater. We had 639 911 calls that were answered, and for a total call for service for the month of 569 calls that are communications answered. For our animal care center, we had the shelter dogs that were taken to Highlands for midterm therapy at Malady Park that was requested. We had 1 full-time animal care tech was hired. They participated in the Boo Fest at the Plaza Park. Volunteers have taken some dogs to adoption events in Edgewood and El Dorado. Travis Martinez and Adrian Aleman assisted the shelter manager in getting the RFP shelter plan and design published. Will now be out on November 8th through the 21st for our plan and design for the money that was given to us of the $750,000. So it's a good positive step in the right direction. The intake for the beginning shelter counts was 77 dogs, 16 cats for a total of 93. Intake from the public, 46 dogs, 0 cats for 52. Adoptions were 7 adoptions for dogs, 1 for 1 cat for a total of 8. Outgoing transfers to organizations were 54 dogs, 12 cats for a total of 66. We had 4 dogs that were returned to owner in the month of October. Treatable and manageable dogs and cats for euthanasia were 2 dogs. Unhealthy and untreatable was 1 cat. 3 dogs and 3 cats died or were lost in shelter care, with the ending shelter count of 53 dogs, 5 cats, for a total of 58. We still do have 2 vacancies for the part-time animal care technicians in there as well. And we have the upcoming Halloween Pet Festival, which is rescheduled from October 19th to November 9th. Our information division closed out 95 office incident reports, 27 traffic accident reports, 184 citations were entered, 151 customers were attended to, 310 documents were scanned into our system, and we answered for 16 IPRA requests that were completed. We're still continuing with our indexing of our 2013 to 2017 reports for destruction, continued training for one of our new employees. We completed inventory and purge training, and also one employee attended the IPRA training in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Our evidence for our stats for our evidence division, we had 0.6 grams of cocaine, 5 fentanyl pills, and 8 Suboxone strips that were turned into evidence. We our street crimes division answered or had 32 self-initiated cases. They had 6 cases assigned to them. They had 8 arrests. They conducted 3 search warrants and closed out 6 cases. They also attended meetings at district court, magistrate court, safe house interviews, and MDT meetings. They also assisted with 55 calls for service that were answered in that month. Our evidence technician had 100 cases turned into him. Evidence that was turned in was 280 items. Our property items released were 4. We had 20 cases go to our forensic labs for digital processing. We seized 2 firearms by patrol division that were entered into evidence. We had 1 gram of methamphetamine, 1 Suboxone strip, and he also, if you see that number 1168 IPRA request items, that's how many items he processed throughout the IPRA request for the month of October. So that includes him sitting there and redacting all of each and every video and watching it in its entirety to make sure that we don't give out the wrong information. Also, any evidence that was turned in, all the forms that were turned in that are required for our IPRA request, and he processed 1,168 items for IPRA requests alone. We had 8 fentanyl pills and 1 gram of marijuana. Our travel, we had 11 informational travels in the month of October. We had 1 sergeant attend the IR 9000. We're upgrading our system for our intoxilizer for DWIs. He attended that on October 22nd in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We had a new recruit in-service training that was conducted from October 7th to November 8th. And one of our records clerk, like I was speaking of earlier, attended that training, IPRA training in Albuquerque on October 29th. Our in-service training just finished last week, and we have 2 new officers that are in their first phase of FTO on the streets starting last weekend, last Saturday. Our recruitment, we had 5 applicants that were interested in vacant positions for uncertified. We had 3 applicants for communication specialists that were interested, 1 animal control position that was interested, and 1 applicant for our violent crimes victim advocate position. We did hire 2 uncertified police officers in the month of October. We have our a picture of the 2 new officers that just went onto the streets last Saturday. Jose Trujillo and Jesus Encinas, our 2 new officers, were getting commissioned. We did participate in a hiring event, Highlands University, a transition fair for the high school students. We did participate in the community events for the Boo Fest. We hosted a haunted house at the police department that was sponsored by our union. We had a great turnout. It was a really good event. We did our drug take-back event as well. On the 26th, we ended up with around 27 pounds of narcotics that were turned in, prescription. And we also attended the East-West football game and the Boo Fest. And just a few more pictures of the Halloween event that was hosted at the Las Vegas Police Department. Our vacancies, so our non-certified police officers is Santana Baca and Justin Ramirez. We have 1 vacant police commander, 2 police lieutenants for field operations, 1 field operations sergeant, 2 investigators, 1 narcotics sergeant supervisor, 1 narcotics agent, 7 police officers, 2 communication specialists, full-time, 2 part-time communication specialists, 1 communication manager, 2 animal control officers, 1 victim advocate, and 2 part-time animal control technicians that we added onto this one, for a total of 25. And that concludes my report for the month of October.
Councilors?
Mr. Mayor. Chief, can you tell us a little bit more about the shelter plan and design published?
So it was published, and it's put out for the plan and design. So once we get the bids in and we get a contract set up, we could start sitting down and planning out the layout of the shelter and the needs that we have for the city, and to provide adequate spacing and work area for the employees.
And do we have a location for that?
There's a few locations that we've discussed, but we don't have a final location designated at this time.
And do you know if the funds have been withdrawn from the state?
I believe so.
Mr. City Manager, has the money been downloaded to the city of Las Vegas?
The money's been authorized for use at this point. We won't do a drawdown, though, until we actually go through some of this procurement process.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilors? Councilor Casey?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Chief, I just want to acknowledge, the good work with the shelter. I see the starting, the start of how many animals were in the shelter and then the end. So from the stats that I see, we're moving those animals. They're not just, we're not, increasing and then we don't have the capacity and then tell people. So things are moving there. You're moving animals to other organizations or what. So I think that's important. I think also the adoptions, I saw a few more than normally. So that's all positive. So thank yourself and NB and those. I know it's probably more difficult than managing that portion of your duties, but things are at least moving in a positive direction. So thank you.
Mayor and councilors, if I can also add to that, with Beatrice being fairly new to the management role, we've provided her with procurement training. We've been having her do some desktop top assistance with other managers so she can be stronger and learn more in that role. And the main goal behind that is to make sure that she can be the true manager to the animal shelter, make decisions, help lead and guide that department, and freeing up more time for Chief Marquez. And so that's an effort that we've been working hard on. So hopefully you'll see Beatrice here giving more presentations in the near future.
And the other thing, Chief, just off your data there, is that there's more activity and more, the calls that we're receiving, even, animal control. Is there a way, and if this is data the council wants to, I'll just kind of throw that out there and, council, you guys could chime in. But to compare stats versus crime last year, crime this year, to, so we can compare on a data or from year to year is, are the crime or the calls going up or down, or how can we, I don't know, if council, is that something you guys would like to kind of see if things are working?
So during our reporting through our records division, we're reporting to NIBRS. I did have them pull records recently, and off the top of my head, from what I remember, violent crimes related to people, we've had a decrease of around 28%. And for property crimes, we're down around 40% on our property crimes, and our social crimes were down around 36%. Those are stats that I was planning on bringing now in January at the beginning of the new year. I just kind of wanted to give it one calendar year, and I'll provide those stats to the council from our neighbors. And it's not just our records division pulling, it's from the state of what they're providing us. And we do have really good numbers as of November in the decrease of crimes that we are seeing within the city of Las Vegas. And part of that initiative that I pulled those stats is bringing the stat-driven policing, like what I've talked about, but to show the decrease in property crimes alone with the start of our crime suppression unit and their focus on property crimes and operations and seeing if it's making an impact within the community. And obviously, the numbers are showing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next on our agenda is our finance report. We have Mr. Morris Madrid, our finance director.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Mr. Madrid.
Before I get into the numbers, I want to give you a couple of updates on non-financial work that we've been doing in the finance department. The first one is the update on the investment policy. We presented a draft, the second draft, to the Finance Committee this week and reviewed it. We had taken some prior input from committee members and incorporated that. We got some more input, so there will be a third draft. What we hadn't included in this draft were concerns related to conflict of interest among committee members, staff, elected officials, anyone that may have a financial interest in any one of our financial institutions. So that is standard language that should be in there, and I'll be working on that. The other discussion that we had was what is the definition of available cash? We have a lot of cash, but we need some for our daily operations, payments on big projects, things that come up weekly, monthly, quarterly. Those need to be defined and reserved. The example that I always use is debt service. We have to maintain certain balances in our debt service accounts, kind of like an escrow account for all the financing and loans that we have in place. So I'll be coming up with a formula to determine what can be considered cash available for investment, because it's the intent of the committee to maximize our investment to the extent possible to maximize earnings without engaging in anything risky or anything that would not be secure. So that's the update on the investment policy. Another discussion that we've started, and even in this morning's department head meeting, is the mid-year budget review and how that's going to look. We talked about the process that we're going to use, because this not only affects our budget for this year, but we're going to roll the participation and the whole theory into the construction of next year's budget. One thing that we want to do, a couple of things that we didn't do last year because of the timeline that we had and the new directors and staff that we had, is we didn't engage in a lot of detail, a lot of planning, a lot of justification. That's going to change. We're going to have a lot more human input and program planning, and not just carry forward what we budgeted last year. And we did some of that last year because we didn't have anything better to work with. But that's going to change. And I'll be meeting with the manager and the department heads. And that process, while we have a kind of a skeleton of what the process should be, the actual practice will evolve as we go to make it efficient and to make it, of course, transparent. And we want our financing to match our program intent. And every dollar should have a purpose. So that's the goal of our mid-year budget. That'll carry forward into the planning of fiscal year 26 budget. There'll be a lot more participation, a lot more input, a lot more back and forth. And by the time we come in front of you to get that interim budget approved, all of us will be on the same page, so that all of you will be on the same page with full disclosure and intent. We also want to change some of the policies within our financial operations, because historically we've had a lot of vacancy savings.
Councilor Casey, can you hear? I just want to make sure.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Okay, good. So that we don't want to have those vacancy savings like a savings account for departments. I know the state of New Mexico does not allow
salaries and benefits to be used for any other purpose but that. You cannot transfer to another category. That's something that we're going to consider and probably implement here at the city. So those are the two updates on the non-financial reporting. If there's not any questions on those, I'll go ahead and get to the financial reports themselves. In regard to the budget and financial reporting, on the first page, the general fund revenue comparison, there is some good news. If I don't talk about it, it's average and it's on track and it's boring. So I'll just talk about the highlights. All of the gross receipts tax revenues and even the property tax revenues are showing an increase, and it looks like a trend, not a spike. We expect this to continue throughout the year, and probably for a couple more years with all of the FEMA money that's being released, and that's a good thing. But we can't assume that it's going to last forever. That's why we want to take a second look at the policies that we have in place. So that is good news for the general fund. In the enterprise funds, again, the numbers in the seasonal utilities are seasonal. The natural gas has not begun a lot of activity yet, so those numbers are a little bit down. So is the water. Nothing out of the ordinary. In the recreation department, this is an area of concern because of the drop in revenues this year compared to last year and the increase in expenses. The wellness center revenues are down significantly. The employee expenses are up a little bit. There's a new direction in the management there, so I don't expect that to continue for the entire year, but we will monitor it and support the recreation department however we can. In lodgers tax, again, there's good news. We see an increase in that amount of revenue, and that also appears to be a trend. I know that in speaking with Mr. Marcus and his group, there may be another hotel opening up in town that'll bring in even more lodgers tax and more gross receipts. So there is some good news. In the cannabis fund, that one showed a drop that may not be reflective of the market, may not be a trend. It may be a distribution or collection dip, but we'll monitor that one also.
The state collects that, right?
I'm sorry?
State collects that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And in the opioid fund, they're right on track also. There's not a lot to talk about there. In the FEMA funding, we've had some more activity. There's no budget issues there either. The one that I do want to talk about in a little bit of detail is our cash and investment reporting. This was a major point of discussion at the Finance Committee because it appears that we have a lot of cash, and we do, but the big majority of it is for a specific purpose. So just for anyone in the community, this is not available to spend on whatever we want to. However, we do invest what we can, and we're not done yet. We've invested a total of $118 million in the local government investment pool, and in the 5 weeks that are reported here, the earnings have been $552,000. The performance level of that fund seems it leveled out during the month of October, primarily for two reasons. The activity in this fund is closely related, almost a correlation between what the Federal Reserve does and the earning capacity here. In this particular month, all the markets kind of stood still because of the federal election. That's expected every time there's a presidential election. So we don't expect, we may have a slight downward trend, but these earnings will be at least significant. Now, the question was asked, are we investing everything that we can? And the answer is no, not yet. We have invested 73% of our total cash. That is a lot. Until we determine, and this will be within the next few weeks, what available cash is for investment, we won't be at our maximum. And I'll tell you the methodology that I'm going to use for that. For each fund, I'm going to find out what the floor has been for at least the last 12 to 18 months. What was the bottom balance that they reached? If they never went more than, below more than 2.1 million, then maybe that's the floor. So we could safely assume that we could at least invest 1 to 1.5 million of that without placing that fund in any type of jeopardy during the year. And then, of course, like I said before, there's debt service funds that we can't touch. There's construction funds that we have to prepare for, which we can, and we can move cash pretty quickly. The other concern that was brought up, and is going to be further discussion in the Finance Committee and probably here in the governing body, is how do we balance between local investment and investment in the state treasurer's investment program? That's going to be a question. And I know part of that driving factor is going to be, well, how much can we make? And we did have some discussion on investment in local institutions is not only related to investment earnings, interest earnings, but that type of investment goes a step further in creating economic engines for small businesses, and that's one thing that you just talked about earlier, Mr. Mayor. And I think where we achieve that balance is going to be a long discussion, and can we create a formula for that? I'm not sure. What's going to be the difference between the earnings of the two? If they are completely polarized and apart the way they had been for the last year, they're starting to come a little closer together. And if they're fairly equal, well, that gives us a little more latitude in how we invest. But in any case, I'll continue with that research and development of the new policy and formulas, and I'll have recommendations for you soon. That concludes my report, Mayor and Council, if there's any questions.
Thank you, Merce. I have a couple of questions. We'll start off. The bonds at the rec, and we can pay them off now in the
25. It gets paid off in 25.
the beginning or the end or?
The end.
The end. So we have
For
about a
phase
year
2.
left. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And the reason why I bring that up is, I mean, August, I think, is any questions or anything that we throw on the ballot. So I don't know, that discussion, I'm just throwing this out, right? To kind of see if we, I know, you know, a big thing of mine has look at our bonds, our loans, all that with the financial advisor to see if there's opportunity with the financial advisor to see if we put a ballot question in November to add that on also. So I don't know if we have enough time to put something together to, I mean, November, and then I think by the time, if we put let's say a continuation of the bond or whatever, right? But whatever we, you know, the governing body decides, if we want to keep something up to continue, you know, with the improvement, however we see, you know, we see fit. But the question is, I mean, getting the financial advisor first on board and then, you know, getting everything in place. I think that's an opportunity that we can capitalize on.
Yeah, and that's the way it was done when phase 2 was, before it was placed on the ballot. The financial advisor then was Paul Cassidy with Dane Rauscher. It was called something else then, but What the financial advisor would do was they'll take our audit report and determine what the factors are and send it off for a bond rating to see whether we would issue the bonds ourselves, which was done then, or there's other options of having bonds issued by the New Mexico Finance Authority for our purpose, but they would be the bondholders. And yes, one thing that we also should look at is the language that was on the ballot for that, because it was fairly specific towards the construction. But I believe that there's some flexibility that that money that's going to be left over, because there will be hundreds of thousands left over from that collection of that tax. And I believe that that can be used, and we'd have to double check the language, for any major repairs on the building, for example, even the roof. But moving forward, the language that would be used to keep that tax in place would be at the discretion of the governing body.
That was my first question, see if we could.
And that would result
Look into,
in
the
no tax
finance
increase.
committee or-
It would just be a continuation, like you said.
And then the other concern that kind of was brought to my attention, and I don't know, you kind of mentioned it, that they were, that we have all this money, but it was brought to my attention that a committee member was saying, well, the city has 98 million and they're not doing anything with it, and they're actually sit on the committee. So my thing to this person that questioned was, but that's specific to water. So I was just wondering if you've noticed that within the committee that we're not spending that money, but we can't just spend it. It has to be for the water system. So I don't know if that was clearly
I
conveyed to
agree,
them,
Mayor,
or-
but I think there's a perception out there that we got this money and we can spend it however we want to,
that we're
and that
just
is
sitting on
absolutely
it
not the
collecting
case.
interest is kind of what I was told. Them, so that's not the case. We can't spend it. There's a lot of processes that have to be taken within, plan, design, all that, and then we start doing that. You can't just get the money and start spending it. So I wanted to clear that up, make sure that those committee members know that.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
They do.
Which committee members?
I'm not sure who said that.
Just a committee member.
Oh, any
Go into
committee.
it.
Mr. Mayor. So the interest that's earned on some of that money, can that be? that
That's
could be-
unrestricted, yes.
That's unrestricted monies, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I can also, sorry about that. Mr. Mayor, if I can also add on as far as the $98 million and procuring those funds, the stance that I have been taking in the city manager role is that this is a one-time opportunity to build out a complete water system, not just a water treatment plant, but a water system. I'm really encouraging the director to get as much information as possible. When it comes to RFPs, I really want our RFPs going out on a national level so we can bring as much information to the table and make the most advised decision that we can possibly make. And so I think utilizing the 98 million, I'd rather those funds be sitting in an investment fund, gather information, take our time, do our due diligence as a city, and not be as concerned about the schedule of when we spend those monies. Because unlike our grants or our legislative funding, we don't have the rigid timeline to spend the monies. I really think we need to do our due diligence and do the best we can to have the best water treatment system and full system for the city.
Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Mr. Madrid, I noticed we all get your report, finance report, councilors. I noticed the increase in the charges of attorney's fees. What does that go towards? I think one of them was like at 20,000 and three of them were at 5,000-6,000 for the last month. What is the increase?
Specifically,
do you guys know what the increase is for?
I can't tell you, but seasonally, I can tell you that we did have 3 union negotiations that took place during this time. That will not happen again for a little while. And as far as the rest of the litigation type, I don't have an answer for that.
A couple things I can add in is that I've tried to make sure we have attorney presence here at council as needed. I've had to seek advice. We've had a very large increase in the number of IPRA requests coming through, and I've had to seek counsel or assistance on those. And then to Mr. Madrid's point, also going through the union negotiations. And so there's just been several factors that all seem to have been hitting in the last couple months.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Yes.
You know, I just want to bring it up that the Finance Committee is pretty much aware of the $98 million that are dedicated only for the water system. They understand, and they also have number one priority for the city of Las Vegas as creating a sustainable long-term future water system in place. You know, I just can't thank you, Mr. City Manager, Mr. Madrid, for stepping up and following the direction of Mayor and Council and getting this done right away, ASAP, to do these investments. Like I've said before, the city of Las Vegas has never been in this financial status since 196 years ago that it was established in 1886. Around there. I think the future looks bright for the city of Las Vegas and its government if we do things right. Those investments, if we use them right and we do good things for the city of Las Vegas, we have good projects, they're going to go a long ways. And, you know, it'll be a couple of years before we start spending some of that money of the $98 million. And even at that, I'm sure that we're not going to use $98 million on building a system. So I think this governing body, this mayor, we have done a great job, this administration, with staff included, on securing the future of Vegas. And, you know, again, I want to thank our Sheriff Chris Lopez for being involved with all this process for the county, as well as our Chief Caleb. Thank you very much for all the meetings that you attended, all the endless nights of sleepless nights at those meetings that we had. You know, it was tough, and it was stressful, and it was hard, and it stayed on for about 2.5 months. But I thank you guys for taking care of it, and I'm sure with everybody's help and input, we'll proceed in a fashion to where we're going to make the best interests and the best directions for the city of Las Vegas in the future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilors, any questions on the finance report?
None for me.
Mayor, I want to say thank you. It's very detailed, your information. You explain a lot, not only to the governing body, but to the staff. And, you know, people are recognizing that, yeah, there is an abundance of money, but they're also holding us to the fire. So we have to make sure that that money is, you know, taken care of and spent right. So I applaud you and your team for doing a good job with the reporting and for teaching me what I need to know as well. Thank you.
I appreciate my team too, Counselor.
Thank you.
And thank you, Morris. I'll just end it with this. I can't say thank you guys enough, but I will say with more money comes more scrutiny. So, you know, that's where we have to make sure.
We're ready,
doing
Mayor.
that. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, next on the agenda is consent agenda. We have none for this evening. Moving on to our business items. Our first item is to conduct a public hearing and approval of a variance to place a double-wide home on property located at 919 New Mexico Avenue.
This time I'll entertain a motion to enter a public hearing. Am I correct?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Martinez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Montoya. Roll call.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Martinez?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Martinez, a second by Counselor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries. At this time, if anybody who's going to be speaking on this item can stand up and raise your right hand. Under the penalties of perjury, do you swear that your testimony this evening is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you, and when you come up to speak, please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. On October 28th, Planning and Zoning went ahead and heard this case. They recommended approval of placing a double wide on 919 New Mexico Avenue. They felt that there was no threat to life or the neighborhood. There was, prior to in 1970, prior to the ordinances being in place, there was a second dwelling on this property. It had been removed, but the footprint was still there. So basically what they're doing is they're gonna go ahead and put their double wide behind that house again. They do meet setbacks on both sides, and between the property and the house is about over 15 feet, which meets fire department regulations. Also, the back side of the property, which is near the alleyway, is 5 feet. They're supposed to have a little bit more, but they're also allowed to use half of the alley as their setback back there. So their setbacks are in compliance. The issue with it is they are within a, let me make sure I get the right zone before I tell you guys what it is. It is within a R3 zone, residential zone, and with that, they'd have to have 10,000 square feet or 5,000 square feet per living dwelling. They're short of that by 1,500 square feet. Again, Planning and Zoning did hear it, Board of Adjustments did hear it, and recommended approval, sir. And I'll stand for any questions. I got Mr. Jesse here as the owner of the property.
Questions?
Mr. Marquez, the entrance to the, how wide is the entrance to the property?
I didn't get a measurement of the entrance, but Jesse, can you kind of?
I believe it's about, there's two entrances, one off of New Mexico and then one off of Kavanaugh. The one on New Mexico is gonna be widened, that one's about 12 feet, and the one off of Kavanaugh is about 15 feet.
And what's required by the fire department?
For commercial property, sir, 27 feet, sir.
27 feet?
Yeah, for residential, I don't know, I've never really asked the chief, so I can't really give you a definite answer, sir.
You know, Mr. City Manager?
No, sir, I do not. And unfortunately, the fire chief is home ill, and that's why he's not here tonight, so I cannot answer that.
Okay. The other question I had is this a new water service here too or no? Or is it an existing?
There actually was existing, but they'd have to do it brand new again, sir. So they'll do a development application. If this is approved, they'll have to do a development application with us and then go to get their permits.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councilors.
Mr. Mayor, so other utilities, natural gas, sewer, all of those meet the requirements that you have? I mean, as far as what's on this application?
Mayor, council, yes, all utilities are in the area and all should suffice. There's sewer in the area, there's water, and there's gas there. So they should meet the criteria to go ahead and hook up to these utilities.
So I think I had asked this, you know, when I got this information, I did ask you a little bit. So the building in front of that new double wide, that is also your property?
Yes, sir.
It is, okay. Yeah, I guess I know where it's at. I've seen it. I mean, it's very visible from the, you know, the roadway.
Yes, sir.
Okay. No, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to return to regular session if that's it. Councilor Casey, did you have any questions for public hearing?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to return to regular session.
Mr. Mayor, I move to return to regular session.
A motion by Councilman Martinez. I have a second.
Second.
Second by Councilor Casey. Roll call.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Martinez?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Martinez, a second by Counselor Casey. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Martinez.
I move to approve the request of the variance.
Motion Motion for approval by Councilman Martinez. Do I have a second? Second by
Second.
Councilman Montoya. Roll call.
Counselor Martinez? Counselor Montoya? Counselor Casey?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Martinez, a second by Counselor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Next item is request approval to award request for proposal 2025-11. This is on-call services for maintenance and emergency repairs to the city natural gas systems and to enter into contract. We have our gas director, Mr. David Marcus.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Up for this is approval to be able to have somebody on call for not only just our transmission, but for our systems. In the past, there used to be two separate contracts. One was solely for the transmission line, and one was solely for distribution. We're trying to move forward on making this one contract for our system, natural gas systems. So it'd be on a call status for just emergency basis, or in case of any emergency situations that could arise on our transmission line, or anything that could arise that cannot be taken care of distribution-wise as well. That's what this is for the RFP. We did go out to bid. We did only get one bid. We did reach out to multiple contractors. Some mentioned they were gonna place a package in together. We only got this one.
Councilors, any questions?
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Marcus, what's your backups in order, if these people can't, if you can't rely on them?
What's the backup?
Yeah, what's a backup plan?
Backup for in case of a situation on the transmission line, sir? Or-
Yeah, that they can't respond.
So the backup would have to be to isolate at that point in time. And isolate would be having to run off a line pack for the time being. So now the contract, this should be something where they'd be able to respond within an emergency timely basis. But of course, stuff does arise, we would have to run off a line pack.
And is there a time frame or time limit by the time they're supposed to respond?
Yes, sir. And they should be responding within a 24-hour period.
4 hour?
Yeah, well, that's scheduled. Well,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
With that, I'll move to approve award RFP 2025-11.
A motion, do I have a second?
So moved.
Second by Councilman Martinez. Roll call.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Martinez?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Montoya, second by Counselor Martinez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving on to our next item, request approval of resolution number 24-27. This is fiscal year 2026, section 5311, grant application funding request. We have our community development director, Mr. Lucas Marquez, and also our transportation manager, Mr. Marcelino Rebel.
Good evening. Again, back, Mayor and Council. Coming tonight to present to you guys approval, request approval of resolution number 2427. This is the grant application for funding requests. Of course, everybody knows that the fiscal years work a little bit different for our transportation department. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our manager, Mr. Marcelino Rebel, to go ahead and discuss it.
Good evening, good evening, Mayor and Council. You guys had a chance to review the application in the packet. So I'll stand for any questions.
Questions? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the grant application for FDA and DOT monies.
A motion by Councilor Casey, second by Councilman Martinez. Roll call. Discussion, go ahead.
so, Mr. City Manager, do we have this kind of funding available or designated already?
I do not believe we have the monies designated already. I'd need to defer to our finance director to make sure we actually have monies aside should we move forward with this grant.
But
We do have matching funds available.
yes, okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Finance Director.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Martinez?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Casey, a second by Counselor Martinez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. And Mr. Marcus, I don't know if we jumped the gun if we say anything here about Friday or no?
No, I think it's a
Okay.
good idea we mention
Okay,
it.
go ahead.
It's a good idea we mention it. Mayor, Council, Mr. Pro Tem, and City Manager, the city of Las Vegas was one of 3 cities in the whole state of New Mexico that was
Mr.
selected.
Miller, I can't hear what he's saying, please.
I'm sorry, I'll start over. I'm sorry, Counselor. The city of Las Vegas was one of 3 cities selected within the state of New Mexico that qualified for what's called a micro-transit. And I'm going to have Marcelino explain a little bit of what the micro-transit is, but the good thing about it was that there was a lot of involvement, and then that's one of the reasons why we were selected. There was a lot of people that were always involved in it. So let me turn it over to Marcelino to explain a little bit more.
So when we attended our conference, we had a class on the microtransit system, kind of like Albuquerque started not too long ago.
You don't mind talking a little closer to that?
So when we did our conference this year, the last conference, we had a training about the microtransit service like Albuquerque just started. And they wanted to kind of branch that out to rural communities. So they chose 2 cities in New Mexico to be the pilot program for this new project. The microtransit system is basically, it'd be like Uber, but using the state funding, and the apps and everything would be controlled by the funding, not privately, but through the city and state funding.
It'll be a big benefit to our community. They won't have to be calling in for their rides anymore. They can now go ahead and use their cell phones to contact us and get us over there. It'll help us minimize our travel with our buses.
We do have a meeting scheduled on Friday, and I'd like for everybody to attend. I was trying to find out more details as time-wise, but they're going to be here 9 to 5 this Friday. See how everything works out and how they can make it better, and then bring in the microtransit part. So it's a pretty close thing we got going here.
And if I could add, at the beginning, there was about 6 communities they were looking at, and they ultimately selected.
I believe there was more than that, because
Yeah,
there's a lot of rural transit systems. So they chose us in Farmington to get started on the pilot program.
It's good to note that we did beat out places like Hobbs and Los Alamos and those places. So they chose Las Vegas, which is really a big honor for us. This staff has gotten a lot of awards for the way they handled themselves at these conferences and stuff like that. They came out first place in a lot of areas. So it's really great to see that they're picking us for this type of situation, which it could expand us in a lot of ways.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Is there possibility of being able to have services provided to the public and to our tourists during the months of March, April, May, June, on Saturdays with your schedule?
So as long as the service remains public, open to everyone, like scheduling in advance, and by then maybe our microtransit system will be up and running, then yes, it's a big possibility.
I notice, every summer we have a lot of people and they don't have nowhere to, they don't have no taxis, there's no Ubers, there's no.
To answer that question again, also, in the FY26 application that you guys just approved, I did put in to fill that next spot. And hopefully with that, we can rearrange hours and maybe get evenings and weekend hours going. So it just starts with the application process.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, our next item is consideration to approve the 2025 holiday leave and pay period calendar for the City of Las Vegas employees. We have Mr. Montgomery, our city manager, and our HR director, Ms. Arguello.
So, Mayor and Council, coming forward, just asking for consideration to approve the 2025 holiday leave and pay period calendar for the City of Las Vegas. I have attached here the administrative regulation in your packets. However, there is a correction that should be made on the administrative regulation under the authorization, item number 3. In the packet, it refers to holidays may be added yearly as per the state holiday calendar. That should read federal holiday calendar. What I want to call out is on page 3 in your packet, is the proposed or requested holiday calendar for 2025. And the changes that are being proposed for 2025 starts with item number 4, Good Friday, which would be observed April 18th, 2025. In 2024, we authorized 4 hours of leave. I'm requesting 8 hours of leave to permit homage observance in the mornings, if that's what the staff so pleased to do, and then services in the afternoon. Just culturally, I believe that's something that would suit well here in the city. And then also looking at the 2025 Christmas Day is on a Thursday, December 25th, and I'm asking for the day after Christmas to be off on Friday, December 26th of 2025. And then I just would want to call out that the holiday calendar should be brought forward to the council every year. I don't know that that has been done every year. And so I'm just trying to be in full compliance with the administrative regulation. The next page in the packet then is the actual calendar showing the holidays and the pay days. And then further into the packet, just confirmation, I included the 2024 holiday calendar and payday calendar.
Mr. Mayor. You know what, Mr. City Manager, I really appreciate you bringing this before us. You know, I had asked for it to come before us the last 2 years, because it always used to come before mayor and council. And the reason basically is because the ordinance says that it does, okay? And then the other one is, you know, it affects the budget by probably about $90,000. If you look at all the salaries and fringe benefits and the whole works. So that's what this council is in charge of, making sure that this money is being spent well and in the right direction. So I hope that from this point on, that every year in November, it comes before mayor and council, no matter if we're here or not. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I have no further questions, and I'd like to consider this approval of the 2025 holiday leave and pay period calendar.
I have a motion. A second.
Second.
Second by Councilor Casey, and I just want to throw this out there, is that what happens is continuity. When you don't have continuity, things get lost in the shuffle, and it's important that we have continuity. Thank you. Roll call.
Counselor Martinez?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Montoya, a second by Counselor Casey. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, I'd like to say thank you also, because this is one of those items, it can change year to year. You know, we definitely can change those holidays, but I think we're not always able to give pay increases. Anything that I can do to show additional support from the city, these are benefits, and I think that's something that the staff truly appreciates, and so I thank you for approving that.
If I could add to that, Mr. Montgomery, is also, I think what happens is it gives staff, when a calendar is completely set, they know exactly, and they're not waiting, well, are we gonna have this day, half day off or full day off? And it's set, and it's set in stone, and now we know, so thank you for that. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, next on the agenda is consideration to approve the restructuring of the Parks and Rec Department organizational chart by placing the department under the direction of the Executive Office, City Manager, removing the Director position, adding a Parks Manager, combining the positions of Adult Program Coordinator and Youth Program Coordinator, and modifying the job title as a Programs Coordinator and restructuring the chain of command. Mr. Montgomery.
Mayor and Council, I'm bringing forward consideration of restructuring between the Recreation and the Parks Department. We've had some changes within the leadership of the Parks and Rec Department. And let me explain first what I'm proposing and then my rationale behind it. We previously had a director role for the Recreation and Parks Department. I found that, or I feel that the Parks and the Rec have a very different focus and very different needs from the leadership of those units. Right now, we have Jeff Rudolph stepping in as an interim manager to Parks. His sole focus is Parks. We have Mr. Arnold Lopez as an interim director over parks. What I feel is having a manager in that role, they can oversee the parks directly, have one focus. Mr. Rudolph is doing well. However, we did not have a manager role for that unit. And so I felt that I needed to have a director oversee on an interim basis, and that's why Mr. Lopez is there. By having a manager role over parks, that would be their sole focus, and I would not need to have an interim director over the two units. I also feel that recreation would do well with a manager, specifically over recreation, and not need to deal with the park side of things, and that position doesn't need to be at a director level. Part of my decision bringing that forward was last year when we closed out the 22-23 fiscal year, the Parks and Rec department was in a deficit of $47,000. By removing the director position, I'm hoping that would bring us back in whole. So that was my thought behind the two manager positions instead of having a director and a manager over both units. The second part of this is I've been going through different organizational charts, trying to clean up titles. We brought forward recently the senior center. We had a backroom supervisor or backroom manager role. That just seemed like a very odd title, and so we kept that as a manager role. Here within recreation, we have a youth program coordinator and an adult program coordinator positions. The organizational chart does not show the number of positions, but what I'm trying to do is bring the youth and the adult program coordinator positions into one role so that an incumbent in that role can oversee both adult and youth programs. It is not a promotion to change that title. We would still have a manager over recreation, we would have a supervisor role, and then we would go into those coordinator roles. So that is not a promotional opportunity. It's just blending those titles of youth and adult together.
Thank you. Entertain a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the restructuring of the Parks and Recreation and everything that was mentioned. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful change that has been needed for a long time.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a second. Second by Councilman Martinez.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. City Manager, I kind of understand what you're trying to do here, and it's all good, but, I think the public works, streets, I've always said that public parks do not belong under recreation center, and they should belong under streets, public works, because, they work more hand in hand together, and public works has more of the equipment and the knowledge to help and assist parks than the park director or anyone in parks or in the recreation center, should I say. So, I think that we're moving in the wrong direction here. And I'm gonna try and explain it to where it makes more sense. On our city charter, under section 507, under departments, it reads, subject to approval by governing body, the city manager shall establish and departments and are necessary for efficiency administrative of the city. Okay, letter B says, each department shall be under the supervision of a department director. Not manager, director. Subject to the direction and supervision of the city manager. On letter C, it says the city manager shall appoint department directors subject to approval by the governing body. Not managers, directors, not supervisors, directors. So right here is telling us that we ought to follow this charter, and it says that every department ought to have a director. And there's a big difference between a director and a manager or a supervisor. So I think we're falling away from the city charter by doing this kind of changes in our organizational chart or in the structure chart of the city. And then it goes further on to say, letter D, department directors are at-will employees who may be placed on administrative leave or removed by the city manager, subject to majority vote of the governing body. So by deleting directors, you're deleting the authority that you have to remove people that are in positions that are not doing their job. By adding managers, you can't remove managers because they're protected, like supervisors and all other employees. So I think, Mr. Mayor, that we're moving in the wrong direction by not allowing and having the responsibility of a director in every department, the way it's meant to be through the city charter. And pretty soon we'll be running all the directors, all the departments by managers or supervisors. And that's not what our grandfathers instilled on giving us this direction on the city charter. It says that every department ought to be ran by a department director.
So,
Because of the responsibility that lies there. So, I don't agree that you ought to be inheriting departments. I mean, that's not what we hired you for. We hired you to oversee them, but not to run them. And this, you would be running the recreation center. And to me, that's not good. We're trying to eliminate that. So, I think we're going in the wrong direction, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
thank you. So, Mr. City Manager, just for clarification, Public Works will, the director, so basically Parks would be under the direction of the director, which is Mr. Arnold Lopez, am I correct?
That actually was not my intent. And I definitely understand where the counselor is coming from in having directors over departments. Again, I was trying to express that having a manager over each unit would allow a person to have a sole focus. Yes, they would report to me, and that does add work onto my plate. I understand that. But also, if there's a performance issue, there is progressive discipline that should be put in place. That needs to be utilized so that if a person's not performing, I understand that and I could take action. Again, I was also looking at the Recreation Center and Parks is funded by the general fund. That's a transfer that's done at the end of each month, and last year, having closed the year in a deficit, that's alarming for me. I'm asking for the consideration. Let me put it that way.
Mr. Mayor?
So, just roll call. Well, hold on, you had discussion.
Yeah, I wanted to ask or add something there. So is this an item that now that we start to redo the ordinances for the city, that this can be changed? In other words, can we actually take a vote on something that's holding, that's a former ordinance, I should say? I guess that's what I want to know. Can we still vote on something like this? I don't want to put the cart before the horse, of course. I get where you're going with it, City Manager, and I think that's a really good direction, especially if you yourself are willing to take that on. However, I do not want to violate an ordinance, I guess I should say it like that.
So he wouldn't be violating any ordinance or the charter, because the charter states as long as there's oversight by a director, which he would be directing or overseeing those departments or divisions.
That's kind of what I was trying to get to, sorry.
And I have to be honest, the turnover that has occurred is not that long ago. But what I have seen from the parks at this point and the individual that is there, the focus is only on parks, and I think that we're going to see benefit coming out of that. I also feel like going through the recruiting process for the recreation manager role, it's difficult to find an individual that has both recreation, sports, fitness background, and parks. And so this is a strategy of mine to be a cost saving, but also drive focus. I would need to rely on progressive discipline if there is an issue. I feel that a significant portion of my time is dealing with parks right now, and has been for quite some time. I have found an individual to serve as the interim manager that has a horticultural degree and is focused strictly on parks, and I think it's successful. It is a different protocol. It is a different direction, but I think that it can be successful as well.
And I also want to add, now thinking about the charter and my knowledge of the charter, there is a portion of the charter that allows the city manager to be a director of a department, with the exception he cannot be the director of the finance. So it is allowed within the charter, just if you read the other sections of the charter.
I'm not objecting to him being a director. If he wants to be a director, he can be a director.
But we're not, I guess my thing here is we're not violating the charter in that.
No, but what I'm saying is that the charter reads that every department has to have a director. That's all I'm saying. Every department has to have a director. Each department shall be under the supervision
And that's,
of a department director. It's pretty clear.
May I call out also Section 5.07 Departments, letter E. The city manager may serve as department director, provided that the manager shall not serve as either city clerk or finance director.
it's allowed in the charter.
And I'm not saying, I'm not objecting for you to be a manager. If you want to be a manager, you can be a manager.
A director,
Well,
specific director.
I'm saying a director. Everybody has to have a director. And they're supposed to be in charge of that department. If you want to be a director, I mean, I guess be a director, but I would rather have somebody else be responsible for that. Because if things aren't going right, and I'll say it, when shit hits the fan, I mean, somebody's got to be responsible at the end of the day for that department. And you're already overwhelmed by all the stuff that you have on your plate. And I don't see that working at all. That's, you know,
And I think the one thing to look at here is, I think Mr. Montgomery is, I mean, we've already approved organizational charts, and they haven't worked out, and obviously he's brought him for changes, right? Is that his willingness that if it doesn't work, he's willing to be open with that, and I think that's the important part. Am I fair in saying that, Mr. Manager?
Absolutely. I think if this is a poor call, I would be coming back asking for a restructure that is more effective. I just feel that right now, my hands-on with both the recreation and the parks has been ongoing. And I also feel that we spent a significant amount of money for other individuals to be in that capacity. I'm still doing that work. And knowing that the books closed last year in a deficit for recreation, I feel it's my responsibility to call that out. I feel we need 2 individuals to be focused on one unit, and I can still provide that oversight. It adds 1 individual to my purview, so to speak.
So again, to be clear, you know, in the charter, it does allow the city manager to be a director. So with that, roll call.
Counselor Martinez?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya? I have a motion by Counselor Casey, a second by Counselor Martinez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries. Moving on to our next item, item number 6, request approval of contract with AECom for the Peterson Dam Replacement Project, Phase 3, final design, and Phase 4 engineering during construction scope of work. We have our Water Director, Mr. Travis Martinez.
Mayor, Council, Tim, Cass. Is it too late to save my back? I'm just kidding. So, this contract has gone back and forth between AECom, the city, and the state engineer's office. We finally got it approved through the state engineer's office, and now we're taking our position in getting it approved with us in AECom. And if you guys want, I can give a little bit of some detail as to what this contract is gonna cover for the Peterson Dam replacement, if that's okay.
Councilors, before we start discussion, I'll just entertain a motion so we follow the proper rules of order. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I move that we approve the contract with AECom for Peterson Dam replacement and final design and other work that needs to be done.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councilor Casey, second by Pro Tem Montoya. Now discussion. Hearing none, roll call.
Counselor Montoya?
Can you allow him to give us a spiel as to what it's all about?
Well,
Because I think-
that's where discussion with questions would have been. If you had questions, he said that
No.
he afforded the opportunity if there was any questions. There was no questions.
Let's call for, you want some time to explain?
I just said if you guys wanted me to give you a little bit of.
I mean, I would like for you to explain so the public knows what we're doing with our water system
Go ahead.
plant.
Go ahead.
And Peterson Dam, because there's a lot of weight on people in the future of Vegas and their businesses.
Yes, sir.
And so forth, and they want to know, they want to have some information as to what's going on with their system and what are we working at, how are we going to spend the money and that kind of stuff, but I'll let you explain. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll just give just a brief explanation. Basically, the contract is the scope of work for the Peterson Dam replacement, Phase 3, final design, and Phase 4, the bid support for construction. The City of Las Vegas owns and operates the Peterson Dam. The dam is over 100 years old and is in need of replacement. AECom Technical Services is proposing the tasks described for final design and Phase 4 engineering services to complete the final design of the concrete dam, including project management, meetings, environmental permitting, design analysis, and the development of the construction drawing specifications and design reports that will be going through city, state engineer's office, every permitting that we need to do. So with this contract, AECom will be taking on all that responsibility.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And I don't know if they're specific, I mean, and I know you're very, want the public to know, but if there's something specific that maybe you want Travis to say that he needs to say, now would be then that's where I was asking if you have any questions.
No, it's basically, Mr. Mayor, it's just basically so the public knows that we are not sitting on money, that we should be moving forward, and we are moving forward with engineers and consultants, and we're gonna get this done. So, I mean, the public is worried out there that, what's the future of Vegas? How come we haven't done anything? And questions like those. So it is important that we are transparent with the public and let them know, this is where we're moving forward. Thank you. Mr. Seaman.
If I can add also, Mayor and Council, that going under contract with AECom also allows us to seek a professional opinion on the dredging at Peterson Dam. So I'm in support of the contract myself because I want to be able to ask more questions before we take action on our own. This would give us a professional view.
Mr. Mayor? Yes, the two dollar amounts on page one, the first page and the second page, those are two different amounts. Was that just a typo, or?
On
First and second page of the pamphlet that we received.
Oh, let me see.
I just wanted that to be,
Well, if you look over here to the back of page 19 of 20, it gives us the breakdown of Phase 3 and Phase 4. Do you mind if I say the?
Yeah, go ahead and give the
Okay,
total.
so final design is gonna be the task description, which is project management meetings, Clean Water Act with NEPA, design analysis, construction drawings, construction specification, design reports, and MTOs and construction cost estimates, which is a total of $2,426,520. And Phase 4 is gonna be construction and bid support, which is project management, meetings, bid support, and that's gonna consist of $66,855. And if you add, of course, you add those both up, I think it comes out to the $24,493,380.
Thank you.
2,490,000, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's,
Yeah, that's the breakdown right
yeah,
there.
okay, that's what I wanted to kind of ask on that.
Yes, sir. I just combined them both together so that way you guys can see what both phases were gonna cost the city.
So, Mr. Martinez, when will the planning, when do we expect the planning and design to be done with?
So we are,
Months, years?
no, it'll take, I would say, anywhere from 6 to 7 months, depending if everything goes smooth between the city. Because you gotta remember that state engineer's office is still involved, so they're gonna wanna see 30, 60, 90, and 100% design. So, I mean, we can rush through it, AECom can rush through it, but state engineer's office is still gonna have to have the final say-so on it. So, like I said, I don't really wanna put a time frame on it because I can't speak for what the state engineer's office is gonna have. Because if they do have comments, we're gonna have to come back, we're gonna have to fix those comments. You know, it's a three-party system now, especially with this project.
Let me ask you, how long did Bratner take? 3 years?
Bradner, well, the plan and design, don't quote me, I mean, I wasn't here for that project, but I know the plan and design took anywhere from 3 to 4 years. And of course, the construction did take about 2 years, 2.5 years maybe. And I could be wrong, I wasn't here for those projects. But you gotta remember that Bradner Dam was also a different design and it's not a concrete dam. So they're two different types of dams, so this one is a concrete, so we're hoping it'll go a lot faster.
Yeah, and also, just so people understand out in the public's eye, is that the dredging that needs to get done is also because of all the silt that got contaminated on Peterson.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so.
And it's
that
just
will-
silt that's been built
Yeah.
over the years as well, too.
And also, but
Yes,
it
sir.
will probably increase our capacity a little bit more at the same time.
That is the plan.
Plan, yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Roll call?
Counselor Martinez?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Casey, a second by Counselor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is discussion action regarding Las Vegas night. Mr. Mayor?
Okay, so I wanted to just put this on the agenda to have the discussion. I know within the community, it's been asked, and I know we kind of went away from it. I personally, and I'll just give my personal opinion, and you guys, weigh in, and whatever you guys decide, I'm okay with it. But I think Las Vegas night, at one point turned into a party. I believe now with leadership and individuals that we have within this governing body, Las Vegas night at one point was a point where we, do our lobbying as a community. We know it's been tried in the past that we have Bring Las Vegas Day or Las Vegas Night here, and then we shuttle legislators, but we know how busy it is. There are legislators that participate in evening, lobbying efforts. I know Pro Tem Montoya and I have attended, different different events during the legislative session. I just thought, I'm not a party person. Those that know me know I'm not that type of person. My whole focus here is I know that within Pro Tem Montoya's, his connections, I have connections, and I think that we could really attract legislators and showcase our community and at the same time request money. That's my opinion. I really would ask the council that we really consider this. At the end, whatever the wish of the council is, I'm not going to make a decision on my own as it's been done in the past. This is a decision that all of us should make. But I'm thinking that with the players that we have in place, connections that we've all built within our time, even Councilor Casey, it's not going to turn into a party. It's going to turn into a social event where we attract legislators and we lobby for money because I know that we've had success lobbying on our own, but I know we've also lost out some funding. I mean, last year was kind of a highlight that we didn't really get what we should have. I'll just leave it at that. I'll get your input and whatever you guys decide here tonight, I'm okay with. I think we still continue with Las Vegas Day, but I think Las Vegas Night, I think, like I said, I think we have players here that could attract legislators and not just have a couple legislators. I know me personally, I'll make sure that we get people to show up and that'll hear us out for funding. And we'll leave it at that. Comments? I'll hear you
Mr.
guys out.
Mayor?
Councilor Casey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a former legislator, Las Vegas Night used to be a wonderful event. Everybody in Las Vegas would show up. We had tables set up for the legislators, and we had community people specifically assigned to the legislators that were there. And so it was one-on-one lobbying. We had a nice meal. We had the mariachis there. Those that wanted to stay later and dance, they could. Mostly, we would just have a lot of legislators come. They would eat. Some of them had appropriations committee meetings or tax and rev committee meetings that occur at night, often during the legislative session. That evolved over the years, and when I was on the council prior in 2016, that no longer happened. It became a party for the people of Las Vegas, which is wonderful. I mean, people have to enjoy and learn and know how to lobby, but I worked the door for 3 of those years. The first time we had 6 legislators show up. The next time we had 5. The last time that I worked the door, we didn't have any. Not even our own local legislators showed up. It was just community people, which again is fine, but we didn't get to lobby anybody because there wasn't anybody there to lobby. We need to have an event during the day where, and we need to prepare better for that. We used to send out letters. I used to get letters from businessmen here in Las Vegas. I was representing, Chavez County and Eddy County in the southern part of the state. I would get letters from people here in Las Vegas that I grew up with, that I knew. And they would say, Barbara, we really need help with, whatever it was. Can you help us out? Yes. I got money for the rec center. I got money for the sewer plant and a few other things here in town, in the community college, because they contacted me way before Las Vegas Day, so that I knew what the needs were. And so when I had the opportunity to go to Las Vegas Night, I could sit down and talk to those people who wrote to me and, ask if I had questions or they wanted to give me more information. I was better prepared because of that. That has not happened in a long time. We need to prepare in advance. And I don't know the date of Las Vegas Night for this coming session. Do we have a date?
I believe there was a secure for Las Vegas Day, right, Chuck? February 20th, which is kind of still at the beginning of the 60-day session.
Okay, that's perfect, because that'll give us a chance to tell them, Las Vegas Night is coming up, or Las Vegas Day is coming up in the legislature. These are some of the things that we would like you to consider. And then when we go there on the 20th, then we say, we're here. We really would appreciate your help on this that we let you know about, last month at the beginning of the session. We really would appreciate your support. We need help for, whatever it is that we decide that we need. We can go through the ICIP list or whatever it is and talk to them then. And then again, when we go for the real event on Las Vegas Day. And we don't have to spend, we used to spend like $40,000 for Las Vegas Night. We don't need to do that anymore. They love the bizcochitos, they love the tortillas, they love seeing pictures of Las Vegas, and a lot of them at that time, had come to school here in Las Vegas. Some had been regents at Highlands. Others had started their teaching careers here. So there was a lot of connection. And that's what we need to build is connection with the legislators so that they know, gee, these people are really serious about what they need and what they want. And just keep that alive until we know what's happening and, get the money that we need. I don't think that having a big party is going to be as beneficial as communicating with people prior to the specified day. But we need to prepare for that. We need to let them know we're coming. It's like when you get a notice on Facebook that says, special event coming up, Christmas in the park, or we're going to give away toys or whatever. People know, and so they wait for it. So when we let legislators know, this is the day that we're going to be there, mark your calendars. We would love to have time to visit with you. Maybe we can take you individually to lunch. And a lot of communities do that. Taos used to do it. They would just, see you in the hall and say, hey, representative, whatever, or senator, whoever, how about having lunch? Do you have time for lunch? And normally they say yes because they get tired of not eating anything except potato chips when they can. So they would, take you to lunch and sit down with a couple of people from whatever community. And you would, talk family a little bit, and then you'd throw in, well, we really need such and such, and you're on appropriations committee, or you're on tax committee, or you're on education, or whatever it is that they were on. And we have to do our homework too. So I would suggest that we continue with the Las Vegas Day and be a little bit more effective than what we've been in the last 7 or 8 years. My opinion.
Thank you. Councilors?
I don't know. I attended Las Vegas Day last year, probably every year. I mean, the mayor was up at the floor. I gave a presentation, and so did New Mexico Highlands University, Luna, and United College, and there weren't any representatives there. There was people from different organizations that were, more interested in what was going on at the Roundhouse than Las Vegas Night. I mean, we started Las Vegas Night back 18 years ago, and it was, like Councilor Casey says, it was dynamic, it was influential, we made a difference. We had people that were graduates from Highlands that were senators, representatives. We had teamwork, we knew each other, but all that slowly went away. The legislature changes so quick, there's an entirely different atmosphere of representatives and senators nowadays. They're a lot younger. So, I don't know. We used to get probably $15 million a year for projects. 2 years ago, I set up a meeting with the governor. The mayor was there, so was our current mayor and our previous mayor was there. And we were able to get $300,000 for the Rodriguez Park. If we wouldn't have been for that meeting, we wouldn't have gotten zero. The year after that, we lobbied again. Last year, we set up a legislative list of priorities. And I don't know where animal shelter jumped from number 3 to number 1, but we got $470,000. And then we got $200,000 for the old city hall. And our first priority was a new city hall for the city of Las Vegas. We also got another $79,000 for a truck for the rec center that was badly needed. $800,000 we got. We've done other things like we've called our representatives over here. We've given them a tour on buses. We've had a lunch for them at the reservoirs. We showed them our wants and our needs. You know, we've taken them up to the diversion. You know, we've done different things. Even congressional, we've brought them down and done stuff like that. And they would pay attention to us, and they would see firsthand what our wants and our needs were. Right now, I don't know, our senator and our representatives, for me, $800,000 it's embarrassing. When, for instance, other organizations, nonprofit, or, you know, even the acequias get $1-2 million. Others get another $2 million up north, you know, and those aren't priorities of ours. I mean, I think the Las Vegas night had its days. I think it was good. I think the mayor knows enough people. I know enough people. I know that I can walk into the roundhouse and know some names. I think it takes mayor and council to go out there and lobby. When there's things going before committees, or if you want something that you want to push for, I mean, you need to go out there and testify for those things. I mean, I've gone plenty of times on my own dime. I'm in charge of the city of Las Vegas, a penny to go up there to the legislature. And I'm sure the mayor has too, and others. But, you know, the chief goes and he lobbies for his projects in his department. I've seen other departments that go lobby for their stuff. And that's the way it used to be. I mean, the city of Las Vegas, mayor and council would give the leeway to the city manager for employees that wanted to go lobby for their departments or for their city to go and sign in over there and lobby and testify before the committees. And nobody's denied. There's a whole room over there of people, and they'll ask everyone to give a comment. If you don't have a comment or a purpose, you don't say anything. But last year, the county was there, we were there, we testified, you testified, and that's what it takes. But I would recommend that we invite, you know, our senators and have them commit. Have them commit to us on whatever we're asking for. Make some kind of a commitment to us. You represent us, make a commitment to us. How are you going to help us out? I mean, I've been through those parties too. I mean, they're nice, good food, good music, but if you have no representatives there, senators, or even the governor, they're all tied up. They're all in session. They're all in committee. I mean, if we're going to throw a party, well, let's throw a party here in Vegas. We can't see each other here, you know. And I'll tell you, last year, I think it was mostly department heads that were there. You were there, Tim? No? So, I think it's a waste of money. I don't know what kind of money you're thinking about doing or where you're having that at. If you're going to have it at the rotunda, you can't even hear yourself. I don't even think anybody heard me, whatever I had to say last year, because it's got so much echo in there and there's so much commotion going on, everything gets lost. I mean, I don't know what the purpose is, to tell the truth. But I think what's effective is if, you know, when mayor and council and our city manager and our finance director go show up at the governor's office, like we did a couple of years ago, and we show up to committee, and we show up to the representatives or the senator's office, and sign in and show our request and show him, give him the information that we're asking for, the backup documentation of what we're requesting for, and that's what works. This just hearsay, it don't go too far. So I don't know. I know, Mr. Mayor, I don't know. I guess in the past it's been the mayor's call to do this or not. And I mean, it don't matter. I don't see a real impact in it. I think it's more up to mayor and council to show up and show support and request with our city manager, show up there and request for whatever we request for, whatever's on our priority list. But don't go up there and change it the last minute, because of the lack of funding. And we need to stick to our guns and say, this is what we need, and this is what, if you can't help us with the whole project, help us with half of it. We'll do the rest somehow. But, it takes, before, we used to have a lobbyist. And we got rid of that lobbyist. Why? Because he was lobbying for Taos, he was lobbying for Cimarron, he was lobbying for Wagon Mound, he was lobbying for Raton. I mean, he was making $1,000 from each one of us. Okay, $2,000 from the city of Las Vegas. But anyway, the thing is that, yeah, he'd go and wine and dine some councilman up there and so forth, but not a lot of money was coming in. He was making $80,000, $90,000 for a 30-day session. So we got rid of that. 3 years ago, I showed up to the legislature to a governor's meeting. You were there, Mr. Mayor. I got escorted by my lobbyist that I didn't even know we had. And they said, well, what's your part here? I said, I'm your lobbyist. Oh, okay. This way. It's kind of really
It was
embarrassing
in
to show up.
2017, just for the record, I was not,
Pardon me?
I was not the mayor in 2017. just-
No, but I'm saying, somebody made $20,000, $10,000 or something. Not at our direction. But I don't think, I think the city of Las Vegas hasn't been doing well for the last probably 15 years as far as lobbying. Mayor Alfonso Ortiz did good. He went and lobbied on his own with the governor and got $10 million on his own, but that was it for that year. So I'm not sure. I think that it's a lot better when you go as a team, when you go with your priorities, when you go with your documentation, present it, here it is, what can you help us with, and get your governor, your senators, your representatives at that meeting, and you leave it there. And then you go lobby with the rest of them for that support. That's my experience, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, and again, whatever's decided, I have no issues. I thought I'd
Yeah.
bring it to your guys' attention. To me, and I know Councilor Casey brought this up, to me, it's even more than the legislators. It's their staffers, cabinet secretaries. That's what I had in my mind of Las Vegas night, is we're not just, because during the day, you have them just back and forth run. It's a go. But in the evening, Councilor Casey would have this, well, in the evening, they know, yes, they get per diem, but they also go, okay, I'm gonna go eat here, I'm gonna do this. But I think with the networks that we have, that we've built, that this group has built, from Councilor Casey with her time in the legislature, with, our state treasurer and your connections and the networking that I've built with legislators and cabinet secretaries, and that to me, that's a place to really get to sit down. And that was just what my intention was here tonight. To have that night, because we have everybody at the same time. The other issue that I'm hearing out in the state level is that the city, and this goes to the 98 million, right? Like we're so unorganized, and I think they need to hear from our department heads at a time that it's in a casual setting. And I'm not talking party, I'm just saying a casual setting. You don't have to have the baile, and we don't have to do all that. But we have something nice in the evening for Las Vegas night, that we have that casual setting, we invite everybody, and that's kind of my vision of this. But, that was just my intent tonight, and Councilman Martinez. Just before we move on, I do want to say that myself, the president of Highlands, our Commissioner Garcia, we're working on the way we typically do prior to the session anyway, is having a breakfast, inviting our local legislators. That's already in the works. I think no official date has been set, but towards, the middle, the end of December. So, it's not like, that part of our locals, the effort of getting those guys involved and letting them know our priorities, that's already taking place. I'm just talking the bigger picture with, that's my intent, Councilman Martinez, so.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'm good either way. I've attended Las Vegas Nights, and I've also attended the legislature during the session for the school board, I don't see how you can get any kind of information across to any of our representatives and senators during the session. It's almost impossible to be able to talk to those people. You have to do it prior, period. Prior, and have a priority list, just like they were mentioned earlier. I've seen it firsthand. I remember going out there the first time and trying to understand how it worked, and it's a train wreck, that roundhouse. I'll be honest with you, everything is so busy, and it almost seems like nobody really listens. You have to do it prior. And I think, what the mayor mentioned in reference to, I think the best thing for us to do at this point is to have a good priority list. And I know that you mentioned, the county, Highlands University, and and the two school districts along with Luna. There's a plan to put that together, to put something together, to have our legislators come here to our community and voice what we need to do moving forward. So to me, it doesn't matter how it's planned out. I don't want our funding to be a waste of money either, okay? So I'm for whatever is best for business. Because that's what it is at the end of the day, business.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask, how much have we spent in the past years? 20,000, 30,000, or?
Unfortunately, I was not included in those years. I'm just not sure, Morris.
might know.
20,000 has been budgeted for the last 5 years.
Years, 20,000.
And the actual funding comes from sponsorships and donations, not from government money.
Like I said, I'm okay, the work of lobbying, I mean, that's, we're doing that already, you know what I mean? And talking to our legislators. Discussion with Anita has already taken place, well, Representative-elect Anita Gonzalez. I just wanted to throw that out there, so I'm good, so we'll just continue with Las Vegas Day.
And then the other thing, Mr. Mayor, if I might add, last year, I'm telling you, I don't know when the city went over and decided to do it, but it was a last minute thing. And we got the worst time, the worst day. And that was the only day left. So I don't know if this year is the same thing, to where we're a dollar late or a dollar short. But I know that last year.
Last year was on opening day, and that's the worst day of the.
And that was the worst day we could have ever had.
Yeah.
So I don't know now if we have a choice or not, but, and those are kind of things to consider. But I have no objection. I mean, it's.
So, Mr. Mayor, is there already a date set or planned?
For Las Vegas, were both nights already kind of planned out, Chuck?
You get 3 choices and they determine, they will tell you what day you're gonna get. This year we got February 21st.
That's not a big deal, right?
That's not-
Can you repeat what Chuck said, please?
So I guess you put in a request, you give 3 dates. And I guess the date that was, they select the date, the final day, and I guess the 21st is what, the legislative, whoever makes that decision, that's the date we are giving, the 21st.
21st.
Yep. And the session starts, I believe, the second week, January, am I correct?
It
Somewhere around-
starts the day after Martin Luther King
Okay.
holiday.
So, Mr. Mayor, question, when are we gonna do a set up priority list on
That's
projects?
December.
December?
December.
Wait till December.
So just for clarification, I know, so this is the big issue is we have our priorities, right? And then we do our ICIP. And that's basically technically what legislative, the LFC is looking at. Am I correct, Tim, in saying that?
Yes, that's
So when we throw these other things in, it kind of, I mean, I know mine, when I meet with legislators, they're like, well, that's not on your ICIP. So we have to be very careful. I know in the past we've thrown in random projects, but we got to really kind of stick with that with that ICIP. Am I correct, Tim?
That's absolutely correct.
And Morris, in your finance, in your background, that's what they're saying, right? Am I?
Yes, yes, and, you know, you always have some rogue, people or elected officials that go in the back door and get their thing funded, but to get it done in large amounts and right, that's exactly what you need to do.
So in general, we already kind of have a priority list in approving our ICIP, it's just developing it.
Right.
Yeah. So just to be clear on that.
And what we also need to pay attention to is committee assignments are going to be made pretty quick when the session starts. We need to pay attention who's on those committees and where our bills may possibly go so that we can get to know those committee members. You know, write them a letter if they're a new legislator, say congratulations. We're looking forward to working with you. You know, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm David Romero, Mayor of Las Vegas, and these are our priorities for the upcoming session. We'd love to have the opportunity to meet with you sometime. So at least they know that someday, before they vote on final bills and everything, that you will meet with them. You know, we need to plan better. You know, you just can't show up on one day and expect to have everybody know what our needs are, our priorities are. I don't know, it's from Adam, and there's a whole bunch of new people there. 63% of the new people there are women. And so we need to send women over there too to talk to other women who are legislators to get what we need. If we need something for the schools, no, those women have children in schools. If we need to get roads that are safe for the buses to get their kids to school, we need to talk to those women. Those are the things that we need to know and capitalize on so that we can get not only their attention, but have them support us in getting us money that we need.
I agree. All right. So we'll just continue with the Las Vegas day and no Las Vegas night. Next item.
Our next and last item is item number 8, request approval to reschedule the December 11th, 2024 regular council meeting to December 10th, 2024. Mayor?
Right. The reason why I'm asking this, I know Councilman Olivari has been out for justifiable reasons, excused, in my opinion. I know Councilor Casey is having, hers, but the reason more specific, I'm not, December 12th or December 11th is a regular scheduled meeting. I had committed to the Latino network that basically asked me if I would participate in a trip to Israel, to see what was going on over there. Part of that, they had asked if I would participate. There's a mayor summit in California to see if I would go and give feedback. So I committed to that, and I didn't realize at that time that the date was going to conflict with our council meeting, and I didn't know we were going to have, the issues that we have where we have 4, but just all it takes is, one me missing and somebody else, and then we don't have. So I'm just suggesting that we, again, according to what this governing body had suggested, is that we change, that it comes to the council and you guys decide. So I'm bringing that to you guys, just to make sure that we do have a quorum. I know, like I said, we have one out and I'll be out, and that you don't know what could happen, and then you have to cancel. I'm just asking that you guys would take into consideration that we change it to the Tuesday instead of the Wednesday.
Can I make a motion for that then?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion, I'd like to move to go ahead and approve to reschedule to the December 11th regular council meeting to the December the 10th, I'm sorry.
Motion by Councilman Martinez.
Second.
Second by Councilor Casey. Roll call.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Martinez?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Martinez, a second by Counselor Casey. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
And I just want to know for the record that I'm paying for my own flight and all that, so, but I did commit just because I thought that they did put in, and I think with this mayor summit, basically what I did tonight with you guys, I have to go and present what I saw in Israel, so thank you. Thank you. Tim?
Yeah, I would just like to go ahead and tell all our city employees. Oops. Yeah.
I think he's gonna sing, I think.
Music y todo, right away, Spanish. No, basically, I just wanted to say happy Thanksgiving to you all, city manager, clerk, police chief, all directors and employees. Happy Thanksgiving to you all and your family. Be safe out there and enjoy it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And I think to add to that, thank you for bringing that up. And the thing I think we're all most grateful for here, the council, is for all you employees. So thank you guys, as we go through that.
Yes,
day.
sir. Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Good night.
A motion by Councilor Martinez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Casey. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.